Welcome to episode 84 of the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast. I'm Jill.
And I'm Chris. If this is your first time here, welcome. And if you're returning, we're glad to hear from you as well.
Yes, thanks for joining us.
You might be wondering who Ellie is for the Becoming Ellie community. For those of you that haven't heard the podcast before, when Thor challenged Ellie to a wrestling match, everyone was surprised when she won. She is the Norse goddess of aging. We wanted to be like Ellie.
Yes, fit and strong.
And surprising.
Yeah, so we wanted to go as we sort of enter those older years, I guess we could say. We wanted to be able to remain active and healthy and fit and strong.
Yeah. This for the second half of our lives, right?
Yes. There you go. That's it. Yeah. So today we thought we would talk about how to maintain that motivation to be healthy. And probably the best way to do that is through what we eat and how we eat. And so Chris and I are going to talk about some ways to motivate yourself to eat in a healthy fashion.
Yes. Many of us already eat in a healthy fashion, but continue to eat healthy when it's a little more challenging.
And sometimes it's easy to begin to backslide if you don't have the tools to help you stay focused on what you want to be doing.
Exactly. Why don't you start us out, Jill? What's your first tip?
Well, my first tip is to have a realistic goal. Figure out what you're trying to do. If you are trying to lose weight, if you just want to maintain a weight, gain weight, whatever it is you want to do, figure that out, write it down. And that way you know if you're succeeding or not as time goes by.
Yeah, some people might have rolled their eyes when they heard about gaining weight. But you know what? Sometimes my goal has been to gain strength and gain muscle. And that may make you weigh a little more, but you actually get slimmer.
Yes. I personally try to now set my goals as body composition. So I've checked my weight, but my goal is usually that I'm trying to have a certain percentage of body fat or reduce that body fat or gain more muscle. I mean, you can reduce the body fat percentage by getting more muscle. That to me is sort of more indicative of health than just what the scale says.
Right. Exactly. Because sometimes you can get on the scale and the weight is fine, but you feel like you have that roll around your middle. And sometimes I have experienced that and find that very frustrating. So that becomes my goal. Get rid of that spare tire that's kind of creeping on me.
That is often my goal. Yes. Yes. That's a good goal. So you could set a goal of what you want your waistline to be.
Right. Measurements, that works.
Yes. But I guess my thought is that it needs to be something, you can have a long-term goal if you're trying to lose weight, but don't overwhelm yourself with something that's just so big that you feel discouraged before you really even begin.
Right. I feel like that makes a lot of sense because sometimes I'll get this big idea by a certain day and it really doesn't make sense, especially with healthy eating.
Yep. We need to just figure out what works for right now.
Well, I know when I'm working on my goals, this leads me to the second tip. I try to anticipate the weakest time, when my motivation will lag. It might be a certain time of day. Like, for instance, I know between 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock, I have the least amount of healthy eating motivation.
In the evening.
Well, yeah, it's usually between 7 and 8. And if I can make it past that, witching hour kind of thing, it just depends on the day. And sometimes I anticipate, if I've had I'm expecting a stressful day. Let's say I had a lot of appointments that day and it's been very hectic. I know that's going to be a stressful day. So I'll anticipate that day may be a weak moment and I try to look ahead for something like that. Make sure that I don't stress eat, have some ideas for something like that. So it just works out a lot better for me if I can anticipate the days I'm going to have trouble. Because when I first wake up in the morning, I'm not all that hungry. I don't have any trouble eating a healthy breakfast. Different people are different ways. But for me, I know the evening is tougher. So I anticipate that.
Yes, I struggle more in the evenings as well. Also, as far as weakest time, I find weekends to be more difficult than during the week because it's the weekend. And so
go crazy.
So what happens is I'll go out with someone maybe and have a glass of beer. And then it's easy to lose track of your goals when other people are feeling festive or celebratory or just having a good time.
So it sounds like your weakest times maybe aren't when you're stressed out. It's more when you're celebrating or enjoying time with a friend.
Yeah, that might be.
You lose motivation.
Yes.
To me, it's more when I'm really stressed or I'm feeling like emotional eating kind of thing or bored.
Well, boredom is a big one, I think, for many of us. Well, sort of go along with the weakest time is I like to plan ahead. I like to know what I'm going to eat. I find it's much easier to eat what I want to be eating if I have planned ahead, created a menu, made a shopping list, that kind of thing. Plan ahead and that what food is in the house is what I intend to be eating. I don't do well if I'm hungry and I'm just rummaging around trying to figure out what I might get to eat. Planning ahead really helps me.
Yeah, planning is good. I like to have a pack of gum handy if I'm going to be, let's say, going out or I'm going to have a family dinner or something like that, where they have a lot of appetizers, those things that are maybe not so healthy, a lot of crackers and dips and things that I could add on almost a day's calories just eating the snacks before the meal. So I plan ahead, I guess, a little bit by having some gum or having something healthy to snack on. Certainly having a plan for the week's groceries makes perfect sense, so that the refrigerator is filled with good for you things. And I guess hand in hand with planning is preparing ahead so that you have the good things already in the fridge prepared, maybe roasting vegetables. I love to have roasted vegetables. So often right after grocery shopping, I might chop up the vegetables, whether it's raw or put them in the oven and roast them so that I have something really good ahead of time.
Who did we talk with who suggested eating the 3 cups of raw vegetables?
I believe her name was Heather. She talked about her snack after work on the way home. Instead of chomping on whatever, she would bring a bunch of vegetables to chomp on the way home from work, so that was a healthy snack. And I remember you've said before too, if you're going to have a snack and you're hungry, think about having broccoli or an apple. And if that doesn't work, then you aren't really hungry.
Yeah, right. That was a Michael Pollan thing. He said, if you're not hungry enough to eat an apple, then you're not really hungry. And I do think of that when I stand rummaging around in my refrigerator and I say, oh, well, I have an apple. And if I think,
Yeah, that's a cool thing to think about for sure.
Yeah. But having the raw vegetables prepped, cut, chopped already for you to snack on is probably a good part of prepping, is to have those things ready to go.
I like to prep something like quinoa that is really good from a protein standpoint, even though it's a carb, you have that already, or something that takes some time to cook, to have that all prepped and ready to add to, whether it's to a salad, crushed nuts or something like that. Just prepare things ahead of time.
The next tip that I like is to weigh yourself and track your progress. We've talked about weighing ourselves, but I try to weigh myself every day. And I know not everyone does that, but I find it more useful than just weighing myself once a week or not at all. You just have to adjust your brain to the fact that your weight is going to fluctuate every day, that there are days when you think, oh, how could I have gained 4 pounds overnight? And, and you didn't. I've obviously eaten something that's causing me to retain fluid or something. Something is happening, but usually by the next day it will have righted itself. And if it hasn't, then I know I've got a trend going on of something.
Right. Yeah. I like to weigh every day too and track progress with that.
Yeah. So I do try to measure myself probably about once a month. I measure my waist, my hips. That is very motivational. If I see a change in that, my waist is a little thinner than it was before, that to me is usually very motivational, because it's that belly fat that I'm always stressing out about.
And sometimes, like we said in the beginning, the scale doesn't tell everything. So sometimes I like to try on a certain pair of pants that I know these need to fit. And then I know I'm doing okay.
Yes, the
kind of like
ones
my
that
motivational pants.
Motivational pants. Yes, I was going to say the ones that keep you honest.
Yeah, the ones that keep you honest. I like that.
Yeah, but I think weighing yourself, or you don't have to weigh yourself, but doing something to track your progress is important, I do think.
I have for tip number 6 is swap things out. And I like to swap out. And when I say healthy things, for instance, I love the taste of butter, but I also find that butter has a lot of calories that are not really helpful for nutrition. So I might swap something out that has fewer calories and also has a unique taste, like goat cheese or olive oil, which is a more healthy fat. I don't try to eliminate fats completely, but I like to have more healthy fats in there. So I look at swapping things out and think about foods that I eat regularly and how I can maybe add more vegetables to a meal, because that helps me get a little more healthy with my food choices. It's one way that I can stay motivated, because it's not completely throwing out all the foods that I really enjoy and like to eat, but it's more adding things in or swapping things out that are maybe more healthy.
Yeah, we talked about that on our last episode, because you were talking about making the eggplant lasagna and swapping out some of the noodles with eggplant.
Exactly. Or putting quinoa in place of rice in my stuffed peppers, which, I like that. But I did try the rice cauliflower and it was a little too light. So I've tried swapping out rice cauliflower a lot and haven't had as much luck with it. But if listeners have some good ideas about riced cauliflower, send it on over. I would love to hear about those swaps.
Oh, yeah, that would be great. I used to swap out oil if I was baking muffins or something, instead of pouring in the vegetable oil that the recipe would call for, I would use applesauce.
Yes, that's a great idea.
To replace the fat, because it provides the moisture that you need. I mean, that's what the fat does in a muffin and a baked good, is keeps it moist.
Right. No, that's a great idea.
And I guess yogurt is a nice thing to swap out for some other things that maybe aren't as good.
Yeah. I like to have, when I'm really wanting ice cream, I'll take yogurt and add frozen fruit to it and stir it all up and give it a few minutes so that the fruit can kind of freeze the yogurt, and it really gives the same satisfaction to me as ice cream, especially if I don't think about it too hard.
Yes, I have done that too. And I have my Vitamix, which is, my high-speed blender, and that'll turn fruit and some liquid like coconut milk or regular milk, whatever, yogurt, into a nice sorbet. That's what I say, is I'm making sorbet. And
or even frozen bananas. Those frozen bananas, when you really stir them up, they're pretty. The texture is right. I don't know.
Yeah.
As long as you like bananas. So.
Right. That's the thing about the substituting, is you have to like, which is what we talked about with some of the other things. You have to like what you're substituting, because otherwise it's just, you're making something that you think is healthy, but it's not enjoyable. And really, food does need to be enjoyable, because we spend a lot of time eating, and you have to eat. It's not like you could give it up.
Yeah. And I think that leads right into the next tip that you have, Jill.
Find a friend.
Yes.
Find someone to support you, maybe has similar goals or is trying to eat in a particular way, the same way that you are. Find someone to be supportive. Many of us have family members or coworkers who do not eat in the same way. And it's helpful to have somebody who understands what you're doing. Right. We do have the Becoming Ellie community, which is a good way too to get some support, is, post what you're doing or what you're trying to do and get some advice or just emotional support.
Yeah, it's just much more enjoyable to be working on this with someone else, who's trying to eat healthy and stay healthy. So if you don't have a friend that comes to mind with something like this, the Becoming Ellie community is there for you. Another one of the tips that I have, number 8 here, is to keep it simple. And when I think of trying to keep things simple, sometimes I get overwhelmed with a recipe, just go way overboard, and then I feel like giving up. So I try to do at least once a week, or maybe even a couple times a week, something in the crock pot. Or, some people have an Instapot that they like to use for things. I think you mentioned using that for a couple different recipes, or your Vitamix. When you have a way to keep something simple, it's a real healthy recipe, and you can just put it together and you don't have to think about it a whole lot. It just keeps things a lot more simple rather than getting overwhelmed in too much complication.
I think one of the best things in the world is coming home after being out working all day or being busy all day, is to come home to a meal in the crock pot that's already fixed, cooked, ready to be dished up.
I love that.
I think we tend to overwhelm ourselves with things. So just like I was saying with setting goals, we get too ambitious, and it's really easy when you start looking online at recipes. If you're trying to find, say you're looking for, I don't know, something that uses quinoa or whatever, you can find some really elaborate recipes out there. But when you're trying to just get a meal on the table, often simple is better.
I totally agree. I prefer simple. And sometimes just cooking enough to have leftovers for the next day or a couple days later, or you can freeze some things. It's just great to be able to have a healthy meal handy.
And like what you were saying before about preparing, I think it sort of ties in that I like to think about, all right, if I'm cooking chicken breasts for dinner, why don't I cook an extra one so that tomorrow I have a protein to put on my giant salad?
Yes, that's a great example, Jill. Exactly.
Just like it's nice to come home and have cooked food in the crock pot, it's nice to open your refrigerator and have exactly what you need when it's time to make that big ass salad.
Right. Yeah. I love that big ass salad that Pam Sherman, I think, talked about that.
Yes, I think of that a lot. All of these things sort of tie into having a routine. If you get up at a certain time, so you then have a routine of what you do for breakfast. If you're going off to an office, then having the routine of preparing a lunch to take to work becomes part of your day. The more things that are just sort of habitual,
yes,
it makes it easier to not stray into eating things that you don't intend to eat.
Yeah, exactly. I remember a long time ago, I used to think of Wednesday as spaghetti day. Sunday was big meal Sunday, with the family. Taco Tuesday. I had different days of the week that I would cook the same things. And now I try to do it only in a different way with more of the healthy foods along that route. When I know I'm going to be away for the day, I might prepare my California blend frozen packet and chicken breasts sliced and cooked, and it's all ready to go when I, need to have a to-go lunch that I just put in one of those little coolers.
That's good. So I think having, and it even comes down to having the routine that, go to bed at a certain time. I struggle with that at times. But if you know that you tend to have late night cravings, I don't mean 7:00 cravings. I mean like the people who it's 10 o'clock at night and I'm rummaging around in the refrigerator. Maybe move your bedtime up so that you're not as tempted to eat. I have sometimes thought I'm wanting to eat. I should just go to bed.
Well, that works for me since I go to bed early. But I'm usually not really hungry right before I go to bed.
Well, I'm not either, but I have gone through periods of my life where that late night snack is that becomes the routine that, right. We're going to have a bowl of ice cream tonight or whatever, every night at 10 o'clock.
Well, it's true. It's habits start to work their way in.
They do. They work their way in. So you take some control and try and make the habits that are working in are the habits you want to have.
Yeah. Well, that kind of leads me to number 10, which is to have a mantra or a saying. And when we were talking about this, one of my favorite mantras when people offer me some food is to say automatically, "Oh, no, thanks. I'm fine." if I can say that first time, I'm not as likely to jump right at whatever it is. I have some time to kind of evaluate, do I really want to have that as part of my meal plan today? And then, if they're insistent or I decide, yeah, this is something that I want to have, I can go ahead and accept it without, just jumping right in and eating all of it. Or I could say something like, yeah, maybe in a few minutes type of thing, and I might delay. That's kind of another one of my mantras, as I've said. I will in a little while. I'll get some in a little while, especially if it's a family gathering where there's all this food that everyone has brought special things for everyone, and they expect you to all eat a full course on all those different dishes. So, or I might say, I just had some, I just ate. Those might be 3 of my mantras. No, thank you. Or maybe in a little bit, or I just ate.
Well, I do find myself trying to say things like, I don't eat that, because if I say things like, I'm trying not to eat that, that suggests that I could eat it if I wanted to. And if I just say, I don't eat that, then that helps me mentally.
Oh, yeah.
I know we've talked about that mantras should be positive. So I'm trying to think of how, instead of saying, I don't eat that, I might turn that around. But
I'm allergic to that.
That makes me sick.
Maybe we can get some suggestions from our listeners of how they have some sort of mantra to politely decline without being negative.
Right. I suspect that a mantra that would be good to say, not necessarily to other people, but would be, I eat healthy. I eat when I'm hungry.
Yeah. I just don't want to insult anyone. Maybe it's more like, I think I'll have a glass of water first. Delay.
It's like what I was saying about weekends. I find social things to be challenging.
Yes.
And I think part of that is just that as women, we tend to want to please people. And also because things usually people have brought something like that is good. You like it.
Right.
And that's the challenging thing, is how to not hurt anyone's feelings, decide if it's something you actually want to eat.
Yeah.
There is the idea that you can enjoy something without it being, that you don't have to be on this ever strict diet or whatever all the time.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I like to bring things to some sort of, that's healthy, so that there's definitely something there that I feel like, yeah, I can eat this. If I bring a big plate of roasted vegetables, I don't feel like I have to not eat or something.
Right.
It's not that. It's just different ways of having a mantra so that I can eat healthy, because, and like I think of exercising, a lot of the mantras, you say it over and over, but maybe it's something along the lines of, the food that I eat helps me to get strong. The food that I eat builds my muscles.
So if you're saying while you're running, I am strong, you can say I am strong when you're cooking your food or planning your meals or whatever, because there's only one way to really, your food has to support your overall goals.
Right. The food nourishes us.
Yes. Putting things into our bodies that don't help nourish us is really kind of counterproductive.
Right.
One thing I've noticed is we are not saying that any particular food is or isn't healthy. We're talking about healthy foods,
right?
But I think we're really saying foods that aren't junk foods or fast foods, prepared foods. Everyone has what constitutes healthy food for them.
Right. Because different stages along the way. I mean, I started trying to eat, and I put air quotes, healthy in 2007. So it's been a while. And what I consider healthy now compared to what I considered back in 2009, let's say, it's changed over the years as I've learned more, and as I've really learned to love vegetables, things have just changed. And I know that some people eat vegan, some people eat vegetarian, pescatarian, keto, paleo. There's so many ways to eat healthy for each individual.
I tend to try to eat a bit of everything. I've gone through periods where I haven't eaten gluten or I haven't eaten grains or whatever. But other than I try to limit I do eat dairy, but I try to limit how much of that because I've noticed if I eat too much dairy, I start to have skin problems.
Yeah.
So that has nothing to do with my weight or my body composition or anything. It has to do with how my actual health and how I feel.
Yeah, but that helps you to stay motivated to eat healthy when you know that you have a reaction to certain kinds of food. I don't know, all these different things. There's nothing here that's rocket science that you've never heard of before, but putting together all these 10 different ideas, I think that this helps to figure out ways to stay motivated because, I mean, I just think of 2007 till now, it's been quite a while and it's hard to stay motivated every day, especially through life's ups and downs. But, there's a lot of things here these tips have helped me,
Yes, I agree. I hope that our listeners will let us know what tips help them.
Right.
Because just like I said, we all need some support. So it would be great if people shared with us what they're doing.
I just know that there's a listener out there saying, oh my gosh, they totally didn't say X. I don't know what it is. So please leave comments below on our website or, give us a voicemail or an email. I'd love to hear from you.
Yes. Or you can find us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, and YouTube.
Yeah. Plus, of course, our website.
Yes.
Becoming Ellie. And Ellie is spelled ELLI. It's becomingellie.com.
So you can find lots of information there too. So also, if you want to join our Becoming Ellie community, you can find that on Facebook. It's a private group. And that's a good place to go for that community support that we were talking about.
Yeah. So, if you're looking for more information, I just noticed we have over 400 blog posts on our website. We've been doing this since, what was it, Jill? 2017, 2018. We've been doing this quite a while.
I think we started 2017. I think this fall will be our 4-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Something like that. It's been a while.
It sure has.
So if you are also interested in mantras beyond our I don't eat that and no thank you. We have some positive, inspiring mantras you can sign up for on the website. They're free. You just have to put in your email address and then you can download the mantras. You get them.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I look forward to next time, Jill.
I do too. So see you then.
Okay. Thanks. Bye-bye now.
Bye.